New audiobooks on our channel for free every week. Subscribe and click on the bell to not miss.
Only self-confident people, in their abilities, skills, are able to succeed. But what if you do not yet possess this important quality, confidence? Start working on yourself under the guidance of an eminent mentor, Brian Tracy. The author of the best-selling books Reaching the Maximum, There Are No Excuses, a focus point, a lecturer, a business consultant, wrote this book based on experience working with managers of different levels. It includes Tracy's recommendations that will help you improve your self-esteem, learn to get out of your comfort zone, and be ready for any changes. At the end of each chapter there are practical exercises that help to consolidate and put into practice the information received. I thankfully dedicate this book to my son David Tracy, one of the most positive, sociable, optimistic, and self-confident people I know. Introduction: A fear-free zone. Only those who considered themselves stronger than circumstances could always achieve something outstanding. Bruce Barton. Welcome to the fear-free zone. From this book you will learn how to develop self-confidence, courage, and unyielding determination. You will learn to face any challenges of life boldly and take advantage of the opportunities that it provides, without doubting your abilities to achieve everything you dream of. I can make you happy. You have an incredible potential for success and prosperity, talent and natural abilities that cannot be spent in 100 lifetimes. There are only fears of various kinds between you and a happy life. But by the time you finish listening, they will have left you forever. For more than 25 years, I have studied the lives of successful men and women, trying to find common characteristics and qualities that allow them to achieve outstanding results. After reading thousands of books, articles, and scientific papers devoted to success, I came to the conclusion that the main factor of success in any sphere of life is self-confidence. Everyone who has achieved something extraordinary has this quality developed to a greater extent than the average person. If you develop this quality in yourself to such an extent that you stop doubting your ability to achieve everything you want, there will be no obstacles on your way to success. The main question. I recently received a letter from a woman who at one time was a participant in one of my seminars. She wrote that one phrase she heard at the seminar completely changed her outlook on life. More precisely, it was a question: what great thing would you do if you knew for sure that you were not in danger of failure? When she began to ask herself this question on every occasion, the boundaries of what was possible for her expanded dramatically. The woman clearly understood who she really wanted to be, what to do and what to have. At the same time, it became clear to her that only fears and doubts about her own capabilities had always kept her from achieving what she wanted. What would you do differently in your life if you were completely guaranteed against failures? What if some unknown force gave you the ability to achieve any goal you set? In other words, what would happen if you were not afraid of anyone and nothing and had complete freedom of action in any area? One can only state that the whole world would look completely different for you if you were invincibly confident in yourself. Unlimited confidence. Having more confidence in yourself and your abilities, you will be able to set higher goals, develop larger scale plans, and devote yourself to things that you only dream of today. You will earn well and will be able to afford a higher standard of living, build a beautiful house, spend a great vacation, buy an expensive car and clothes. You will be able to please your family and friends with expensive gifts. You will be able to do what you want without paying attention to other people's advice and opinions. You will be able to control your own destiny, live in accordance with your own, and not someone else's desires. Feeling more self-confidence, you will become a completely different person professionally and build a successful career. It will not be difficult for you to ask for a higher position, a salary increase, and if you want to change your company or even profession. You will instantly decide what needs to be done to dramatically accelerate the process of your career growth. Being engaged in sales, you will meet more actively with potential customers, conduct more vivid and effective presentations, and conclude more deals. As a manager, you reorganize human and material resources in such a way as to create the most favorable business atmosphere, and you will not make endless compromises to please everyone around. Self-confidence will allow you to make bold plans that amaze the imagination. You will become a more creative person, ready to experiment with new ideas and methods of work, choose unusual and risky alternatives, and fully devote yourself to projects that today seem to be only pipe dreams. Strong character, popularity, and ability to convince. With self-confidence, you will be able to exert a strong influence on others. It will be easier for you to communicate with them, to arouse their sympathy, to be your own person in any company. You will be able to openly express your opinion in any conversation. Moreover, people will be interested in your opinion, and it will be received with due respect. You will begin to enjoy universal recognition, as others will be convinced that you are capable of achieving anything you want. You will gain a prestigious social status, and people will start making you lucrative offers that you never dreamed of. Ability to cope with difficulties. With self-confidence, you will be able to cope more effectively with the inevitable problems and difficulties that arise in everyday life. You will gradually be set up to find solutions that bring you maximum benefit. You will be able to laugh at difficulties that can discourage many, and achieve success where most fail. You can turn sour lemons into sweet lemonade. You will feel invulnerable and invincible. The higher your self-confidence, the more effectively you will be able to negotiate with a variety of people and cope with the most difficult situations. You will learn how to successfully negotiate and achieve the best prices and conditions, whatever you sell and whatever you buy. High self-esteem. An unshakable faith in your own capabilities will make you truly omnipotent and teach you to value yourself highly. You will sincerely rejoice in any manifestation of life, because deep down you will know that you are able to take all the necessary steps to make this life exactly the way you want it to be. You will feel great powers in yourself that allow you to fully control your destiny. But this is the main prerequisite for happiness, well-being, and full self-realization. You will feel like the master of your destiny and the captain of your soul. Unlimited self-confidence will make you a self-sufficient person, able to take responsibility for your own life. You are aware of your strength, power, and purpose. You will have a positive attitude towards yourself, to all the people around you, and to all the things you undertake. An unshakable faith in your own strength will help you become an extraordinary person. Self-confidence can be developed. Unfortunately, this is not an easy task. Most people limit their self-confidence themselves, many do not have it at all. People tend to doubt their own abilities and are afraid of many imaginary dangers, especially the unknown. Psychologist Abraham Maslow said that the history of mankind is the history of many people who valued themselves too low. The vast majority of people have a habit of comparing themselves with others, and not in their favor. They focus excessively on their own weaknesses and limitations, often being content with only a small part of what they are actually capable of. Instead of increasing self-esteem, and self-pride, an ordinary person prefers to live for today, not striving for more. But if self-confidence and high self-esteem are so important, why then only a few people develop them in themselves sufficiently to live the life they deserve? There may be thousands of reasons, but scientists have discovered an amazing thing: this quality can be learned in practice. And if so, then it is necessary to work systematically and consistently on the development of self-confidence. The recommendations contained in this book will help you with this. I can make you happy. Everyone has a certain amount of self-belief. In some areas it is stronger, in some it is weaker, but it is a good foundation. It can be developed to such an extent that you feel confident in any situation.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the new items.
The Great Law. Perhaps the most important law governing our lives was formulated by Aristotle around 350th year BC. He called it the principle of causality, and for the first time showed that we live in a universe that obeys a certain order and in which any events have their cause. We call this the law of causation and often mention it when talking about human destinies. This principle can both imprison us in a cage of circumstances and give us complete freedom. It all depends on how we use it. By itself, this law is neutral, as is the law of universal gravitation. The law of causality governs both the physical and the spiritual world. It says that every consequence in our life has a specific cause or several reasons. If there is a consequence, for example, the amount of money we have or the amount of success we have achieved, then we can identify its causes. By changing the causes, we can get a different effect that will suit us more. Let's say, working in the field of trade or business, we have achieved some results. After analyzing the reasons, that is, our previous actions, we can understand what should be changed in them in order to achieve better results. If we observe any undesirable consequences, be it overweight, lack of funds, problems in communicating with others, difficulties in starting a business, we have the opportunity to identify and eliminate their causes. The law of causation is so simple and obvious that there is no doubt. We live in a world ruled by law, not blind chance. Everything happens for a reason. Neither success nor failure are accidental, they have their reasons. Repeating the same actions, causes, we will inevitably come to the same results, the consequence. That's how this world works. The roots of self-confidence. A lot of people are dissatisfied with the results achieved, but nevertheless continue to act, think and speak the same way day after day as before. At the same time, they are surprised that nothing changes in their lives. Einstein defined insanity as trying to do the same thing and hope for different results at the same time. This is simply impossible. The law of cause and effect is also applicable to such an area as self-confidence. In all ages, people with great self-confidence have achieved extraordinary results. Studying the biographies of these people, we can find that some of them have parents who have brought up self-confidence at a very early age. However, the vast majority of famous people began their lives, not differing in this respect from others, that is, deliberately belittling their abilities and doubting them. Destructive criticism, lack of love and other mistakes that parents make about raising children, leads to the fact that people with low self-esteem grow out of them, who do not put themselves in a penny. Subsequently, they work hard to achieve high results, but at the same time, deep down, they feel like imposters, undeservedly claiming something. Such people are afraid of their own success and feel unworthy of it. They look at their houses, cars and ask themselves incredulously, is this really all mine? You can be happy. More than anything, people want to be satisfied with themselves. We want to look around joyfully and positively and feel connected with people. But in addition, we want peace of mind, and this can be achieved only if you are confident in your ability to cope with the challenges of life and maintain good relationships with your family, friends, work colleagues and public affairs. The law of causality states that if we want to fully feel the benefits of self-confidence, it is necessary to create appropriate reasons for it. If we understand what self-confident people are thinking, saying and doing and imitate them, we will achieve the same results. We will become the same as them and nothing will be able to stop us. Mental marathon training. Sometimes it is difficult for people to believe that spiritual qualities can be developed in themselves in the same way as physically. If I had a task in front of me to prepare you for a marathon race in 6 months, then I would first try to convince you that even a person who has never run before and does not have the physical data for this is capable of running a marathon distance of 42 kilometers in 6 months. Today, marathon races are attended by people aged 50 and even 60 years old who have undergone such training. The purpose of my book is to prepare you for a mental marathon. It will not be associated with such physical exertion as the real one, but it will still require a lot of work from you. After all, your results directly depend on the amount of work done. If you follow the principles proven in practice and supported by scientific research and experience, drawn from the lives of the most successful people, you will be able to develop confidence in your abilities, achieve everything you want. So let's get started. Chapter 1. The basics of self-confidence. Things themselves are not good or bad, but only in our estimation. William Shakespeare. Everything you think and feel about yourself and your actions is the sum of previous performance results and the conditions in which they were achieved, but, as a rule, has little to do with your true capabilities. The formation of a personality is carried out in accordance with a simple law, which states that every person is constantly in the process of development, the direction of which is determined by his dominant thoughts. Your body is also in the process of constant development. In the normal process of dying, cell division of the body is completely renewed every 7 years. Where physical evolution takes you depends on the quality of the food you eat, but mental development and formation is largely determined by the thoughts that are born in your head. You are what you think you are. The law of concentration says that everything you think about with concentration becomes your reality. If you think about something long enough and hard enough, these thoughts become part of your mental process and have a powerful influence on your attitude to life and the actions you do. If you constantly imagine yourself as a brave, courageous, confident person, then in fact you are gradually becoming bolder and more confident. The more often you think of yourself as the person you would like to be and the qualities you would like to possess, the deeper these thoughts penetrate into your subconscious and the more they influence your spiritual evolution. Habitual thoughts gradually become part of your character and personality. In this sense, we can say that a person creates himself. You are who you are at the moment, only because of the thoughts dominating your brain. Everything that you have been thinking hard about over the past months or years has become your flesh, and today we are the result of these thoughts. But the process of becoming a personality does not end there. It continues with every new thought that appears in your head. This is the inevitable reality of life, so the best thing you can do in such conditions is to force yourself to constantly think about what kind of person you would like to become. Personal development is not an easy process. For most people, this task seems very difficult. They keep thinking and talking about exactly what they would not like in their life, and then they never stop wondering why exactly this happens to them over and over again. One of the most important discoveries in human psychology is that thought has creative power. Thoughts constantly spinning in my head tend to come to life. They become reality. You turn into what you think about all the time. You will not be able to think about one thing, but become someone completely different. The law of causality always and everywhere operates without failures, without knowing exceptions. Thus, the formation of unshakable self-confidence begins with the establishment of complete, unconditional, systematic and purposeful control over the content of one's consciousness with the discipline of thinking. You must constantly think only about what you want for yourself, and resolutely banish from your head thoughts about what you are afraid of. Everything in life is determined by our thoughts. Everything that is born inside you is embodied outside. The law of correspondence, which is perhaps one of the most important laws of mental activity, states that your outer world is a reflection of the inner world. Everything you see around you is just a reflection of the processes taking place inside you. And this applies not only to you, but to all people. Your inner life determines your outer life. We have repeatedly had to meet people who outwardly make favorable impressions, but constantly experience some problems in their personal and professional lives. And we wonder why such nice people are unlucky all the time. But the inexorable reality is that, with rare exceptions, most of the events in a person's life exactly correspond to what is happening in his head, even if unconsciously. It just can't be any other way. True happiness and success can be achieved only if you live in harmony with the laws that define your being. Although these laws cannot be seen and felt, they resemble the law of gravity, which is also not visible, but attempts to resist it do not lead to anything good. Happy people are those who obey the laws of nature and build their lives in accordance with them. Start with your inner world. If you want to give the impression of a confident person to others, it is necessary that this feeling arise inside you. The basis of confidence lies in harmony with your own values and principles and in accordance with your thoughts and actions with the highest expectation. People who have no doubts about what is good and what is bad, and who live in accordance with these beliefs, are absolutely confident in themselves. Everything they do or say is a reflection of their inner values. Even though the whole world is collapsing around them, but if they know that they are right, they do not leave a sense of inner peace, which rests on self-belief. You will have many ups and downs in your life. But the most important thing is to stay true to yourself. And then, in Shakespeare's words, as night follows day, you will not change others either. Define your values. The starting point in personal growth and the development of self-confidence should be, first of all, the identification of one's own inner values. Success can be achieved only if you are not too lazy to sort out your beliefs and distribute them according to the degree of importance, and then organize your life in such a way that all your actions are a reflection of these beliefs. Recently, I spoke to about 105 to 10 employees of the sales department of a large and successful company, which arose thanks to one successful idea, and then began to grow rapidly and generate large revenues, despite fierce competition. All the participants were very positive, which was noticeable even to the naked eye. When I mentioned this in a conversation with the chairman of the management board after the speech, he showed me a declaration of values that the company's leaders had developed even before it started its activities. These values and principles were outlined on 2 pages, which were initially issued to each new employee. Subsequently, this text was reduced to the size of a card that could be constantly carried with you in your wallet or purse. The head of the company told me an interesting story. Every time 2 or more employees entered into a discussion with each other on some issue, even on the phone, they had to take their cards out of their pockets. This gave them the opportunity to recall the fundamental principles and compare them with their own opinions and suggestions. Thus, any decision made within the company passes a kind of test for compliance with corporate values. Values in business. Recently, researchers conducted a study of business history over the past 25 years and found that in companies where corporate values were clearly stated in writing and accessible to all staff, the profit margin was 700% higher than that of other companies in the same industry in which such a document was absent. The conclusion is obvious. Whenever I conduct seminars on strategic planning in various companies, managers invariably choose decency and honesty as the main quality that should be inherent in all employees. I think this is the right choice. After all, decency and honesty is not just a personal quality, it is a property of the soul that guarantees compliance with all other principles and values. The professional and personal success of individuals and entire companies with clearly defined values is usually higher than that of those whose principles and beliefs are unclear and vague. Clarify your values. The starting point on the way to greater self-confidence and personal growth should be to clarify your principles and beliefs. Do you have to decide what you believe, what you accept and, most importantly, what you categorically reject? For what beliefs are you willing to make sacrifices? In the name of what values are you ready to give not only all your strength, but even your life? Do you value your family, your God, your health, your job and career? Do you believe in such principles as freedom, compassion for the disadvantaged, respect for all living things? Do you think that honesty and sincerity are necessary to achieve success? Or do you think that only hard work is enough for this? Whatever values you choose, think carefully about them and write them down. Who do you admire the most? As a useful exercise, I suggest that you remember people, now living or already dead, who cause you admiration. What are their qualities that make the strongest impression on you? What would you like to learn from them to be like them? And now take a look at the people who surround you in everyday life. What qualities do you consider the most important? What character traits do you like in your friends and colleagues? What fundamental values, in your opinion, must necessarily be present in business and personal relationships? Do they coincide with your principles? Values are not the subject of bargaining. Your beliefs should be absolutely unshakable for you. Either you are guided by them in all life situations, or you have no right to consider them your own. You cannot refer to them when it is profitable for you, and refuse them when it is inconvenient. It is impossible to be only partially decent. It's all or nothing. The process of choosing personal values should be accompanied by a promise to yourself, and sometimes a public statement to others about how you intend to live from now on. By choosing the highest values and beliefs for yourself, you thereby declare that under no circumstances will you compromise. The attitude to one's own beliefs is the true measure of the strength of character and the scale of a human personality. Unshakable self-confidence stems from a deep conviction in your values, that you will never violate your highest principles, which gives you tremendous strength that will allow you to overcome any difficulties in life. Clarification of values. If you have difficulties in identifying your beliefs and principles, the following practical exercise will help you. Try writing your own obituary. Yes, imagine that everyone who knows you well gathered at your funeral to say goodbye to you. The priest reads your obituary to the audience, which tells about what you were like in life and what you were able to achieve. Not only your personal achievements are listed, but also the contribution that you have made to the fate of others. All your positive qualities are noted, well known to close people. Such an obituary will help you understand what you would like to become and what personality traits to possess. None of us is perfect, and it is very difficult for everyone to live in accordance with their principles and beliefs, but the very attempt to put them in writing will have a strong impact on you and your future life. You will experience both a conscious and an unconscious need to follow these notes and become more and more like the person described in the obituary. Classify your values. So, you have chosen a number of life principles and beliefs for yourself, but the work does not end there. Now you have to arrange them according to the degree of importance. You need to decide which ones are more important to you and which ones are less. It is best to write down each principle on a separate piece of paper, and then, as a result of reflection, remove all but one. What's left in the end? This is what will be the main life value for you, surpassing all others in importance. And what value will be the second most important? Third, fourth? Making such a list is of great importance if you want to determine what kind of person you are and what your life is like. Many people in this list have God at the first number, then family, health, work, and only somewhere under the fifth number is success. This task allows you to determine how a person will behave in a particular situation. After all, each of us, under any circumstances, turns first of all to his more significant life principles, and only then to the rest. The order of values puts us in front of a choice. If family is on your list of values above health or work, it means that you will always sacrifice health or work for the sake of family well-being. If work or financial success are higher than health, then healthcare will take a back seat as soon as there is an opportunity for career growth. I had to meet with businessmen who put their career above family values in their list of priorities and, when faced with a choice, always gave preference to work, as a result of which they had serious problems both in the family and in their career. The choice of values and their arrangement in order of importance create a mental and emotional structure that helps to make the right decisions always and everywhere. Let's return to the question of honesty. The principle of honesty in relation to oneself and one's values, perhaps, can claim to be called a universal law. Every time you violate your principles and compromise on your beliefs, powerful retribution forces come into play that hinder your progress. Honesty and decency seem to be essential prerequisites for success. If you do not possess these qualities and compromise when it comes to your inner values, whether in business, politics, or personal life, punishment comes. Moreover, such a situation causes stress, dissatisfaction with oneself, and confusion in the soul. Being completely honest with yourself means that you have to live the truth. This applies to relationships with people and to any other life situations. Lying is unacceptable under any circumstances. You should not compromise your principles either for the sake of keeping your job, or for the sake of money, or for the sake of relationships with others. You should always do and say what you think is right and necessary, no matter what troubles it may bring in the short term. Living the truth means that you should not deceive yourself. Accept your relationships with people and circumstances as they are, and not as they should be or could be in your mind. Having got into a situation that causes you a feeling of internal dissatisfaction and wrongness, get out of it as your beliefs and principles suggest. Make peace of mind your highest principle. Living the truth means striving for peace of mind. All other goals should obey this principle. Nothing and no one is worthy of bringing discord into your inner world. You should say and do only what seems true and right to you, be guided only by your own thoughts and feelings, and systematically correct your behavior if it deprives you of peace of mind. This is the only way to gain confidence in yourself and that you are doing everything right. This will allow you to be at peace not only with yourself, but also with everyone around you. The only expression of your values are actions. Living according to your principles and beliefs is the key to happiness, harmony, well-being, and self-confidence. This thought brings us to the final part of the chapter, which contains, perhaps, the essence of all of the above. The fact is that your inner values are manifested only in your actions. You can understand what your true beliefs are only by comparing them with your actions in each specific situation that puts you in front of a choice. They are especially pronounced in those moments when you are under stress, standing at a crossroads and experiencing pressure from all sides. The actions you take will tell you which values are your priority and if you have them at all. It doesn't matter what you say, what you hope for, or what your intentions are. The main thing is what you do. Your actions will unmistakably tell who you really are. You can determine what beliefs and principles you were guided by in the past by looking back and remembering what you did in a stressful situation when you faced a difficult choice. Have you listened to the good angel in your soul, or have you compromised for some short-term gain? A person who claims that family comes first for him may find himself in a situation where he has to choose between important and urgent work and attending a school play or a sports match in which his child participates. If he makes a choice in favor of the child, regardless of the requirements of the boss, then he lives in accordance with his life values. Everyone has had situations in their life when they had to give up a lucrative job or a relationship with some person, although this was associated with certain sacrifices. And you knew that this painful decision was the right one. Remember what feelings overwhelmed you after you made your choice. If you act as your beliefs suggest, you will always be at peace with yourself, and your sense of self-confidence will be on top. If, for some reason, you compromise with your principles, you have mental discomfort, fear, guilt, and there can be no question of self-confidence. The law of reversibility. The fact that your true values are expressed in actions brings us to one little-known mental principle, which is called the law of reversibility. It says that just as thoughts and feelings influence actions, the latter, in turn, can influence thoughts and feelings. This means that even if at first you have a poorly developed or missing quality, but you consciously take actions that a person with this quality performs, it will gradually form, strengthen, and become a feature of your character. Dr. William James of Harvard University says the following about this. Everyone thinks that actions follow feelings, but in fact actions and feelings go hand in hand. By correcting actions through volitional efforts, you can indirectly correct your feelings and emotions that are beyond the control of the will. Act as if. You can form a whole set of positive qualities in yourself if you act as if you already possess them. In this way, you can develop honesty, courage, empathy for others, and self-confidence. The more often you get used to your chosen role, especially if it happens in a state of stress, in a situation of difficult choice, the sooner these qualities will become an integral feature of your personality. The more you practice demonstrating positive traits of character, the sooner you will become a person who evokes the recognition of others. To develop unshakable self-confidence, self-control, and self-discipline are required. Most often, self-belief arises indirectly, when you try to do everything and talk as if you already possess this quality. The main thing is that your words and actions correspond to your highest values. The principle of loading. In weightlifting, constant exercises with a lot of weight develop muscles. The higher the weight of the barbell and, accordingly, the resistance it exerts by your effort, the more blood flows through the capillaries and the stronger the muscles become. The same principle of loading works in mental development. By developing mental muscles, in particular a quality such as self-confidence, you can use this principle to speed up the process. Every time you have to overcome yourself and force yourself to do the right thing, especially in a state of stress, you resist your old habits. Overcoming mental stress causes certain changes in consciousness in the same way as overcoming physical exertion leads to changes in muscles. Overcoming your habitual way of behavior, doing and saying in difficult situations what you think is right and what corresponds to your highest principles, you fix them in your mind every time and make them part of your character. The development of inner strength. All the qualities of a human personality are formed according to the same laws. If you have overcome some serious obstacles, you can always overcome less difficult ones. If you have bravely behaved in an environment of serious confrontation, then you will also face smaller disagreements with the same courage. If you showed honesty in a question that meant a lot to you, then you will be just as truthful in small things. The basis of self-confidence, courage and perseverance in defending your views is a deep self-belief and self-discipline, which forces you to act in any situation as dictated by your higher principles. By following this course of action, you will experience a wonderful positive feeling of self-satisfaction. Over time, this behavior will become natural for you and turn into a personality trait. Practical exercises. Write down the 3 most important principles that guide you in your personal life. Write down the 3 most important principles that you use at work and in solving business issues. Write down the names of 3 people, living or dead, with whom you would really like to spend the evening. Why do you want to spend time with these people? What would you ask them about? What could motivate these people to spend the evening with you? What are your most attractive qualities? Remember and put in writing 3 episodes from your life when you acted in accordance with your highest values, although you could have compromised. How do you intend to change your behavior so that your principles and actions are always in harmony with each other? Chapter 2. Life Purpose and Personal Qualities. Where there is no self-confidence, there can be no great courage. The battle is half won if you are convinced that you can do everything you have planned. Ori Satsuit Martin. Developing unshakable self-confidence will open up opportunities for you that you never dared to dream of. You will be able to cherish bolder dreams, set ambitious goals for yourself, make great plans and live a fuller life than ever. Self-confidence is the cornerstone of your personal achievements. If it is not limited by anything, you will be able to realize your potential to the maximum extent. More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle wrote, "Good for a person is the active use of the abilities of his soul in accordance with high dignity or virtue." The law of indirect efforts. This statement in some way paraphrases the law of indirect efforts, which says, almost everything we get in life, including meetings with different people and emotional experiences, comes to us indirectly, and not as a result of our direct efforts. For example, if we directly strive for happiness, it escapes us. At the same time, if we are diligently engaged in some important business for us and achieve significant success in it, then we feel happy. Self-belief also falls under the law of indirect efforts. We gain more confidence not because we want it, but as a result of setting higher and higher goals for ourselves and achieving them. Moving forward step by step, we feel more and more strength and ability to face the most serious challenges. Self-confidence and competence. We build self-confidence by moving from solving simple tasks to more complex ones. We grow and develop until we reach the point where it becomes clear that no obstacles can stop us anymore. The habit of gradually increasing the complexity of the tasks being solved is an indispensable condition for the development of self-confidence. You can truly believe in yourself only when you absolutely understand that you are able to achieve any intended goal. True self-confidence cannot come from desire, hope, or positive thinking alone. It is based on the knowledge, which has been repeatedly confirmed by your own practice, that you really have everything you need to realize your dreams. Self-confidence is a special state of consciousness, a way of thinking that is stronger than any circumstances. However, in order for you to fully rely on this quality in any situation, it must initially be based on facts. You need to find any evidence in your activities to convince yourself that no obstacles will stop you and that you are capable of carrying out all your plans. If self-confidence is a way of thinking, then it should be based on mental principles and laws, the main one of which states that thought has creative power. You are not what you think about yourself, but what you think about. If you purposefully and systematically correct your thoughts, then over time the whole world around you will change in the desired direction. Your thinking will create a new reality, especially if it includes such an aspect as your self-confidence. The importance of the correct goal setting is explained precisely by the action of these mental laws, the consequences of which are inevitable and inescapable. You can be happy and successful only to the extent that your thoughts and actions meet these laws and are in harmony with them. The first of them, which we have already mentioned, is the law of causality. It is so simple and at the same time has such power that you must constantly keep it in your memory. Everything that happens in your life, successes and failures, wealth and poverty, health and illness, happiness and grief, confidence or self-doubt, is subject to the action of this law. The main idea of this law is contained in the Bible. It says that what a man sows, he will reap. This, in particular, applies to your thoughts. By sowing optimistic, joyful thoughts in your mind, you will harvest positive events. There is no other way. Having sown clear goals, you will be rewarded with concrete results. The law of attraction, which follows from the law of causation, is one of the main mental laws that allow you to explain the events that are happening to you. According to him, like attracts like. The law says that you will inevitably attract people, ideas, circumstances and opportunities that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. Just as a magnet attracts iron filings to itself, so you will attract to yourself everything that you think about most of the time. Since we are talking about the law, it is impossible to think about one thing and attract something else to yourself. Everything that you mostly think about flows into your life from all sides. That is why vague goals give uncertain results. Clearly set goals bring clear results. Since your level of self-confidence is directly related to the effectiveness of actions aimed at achieving these goals, it is very important to understand exactly what you want and not think about anything else. Another mental law, which also follows from the law of causality, is called the law of conformity. It says that the world around you generally corresponds to the inner world. Your health, well-being and relationships with people are a reflection of what you think about these aspects of life. They say that what you think about will happen. Your thoughts and goals are like seeds, and your mind is a fertile ground for them. Any seeds that you have planted in your consciousness, positive or negative, clear or vague, will sprout in reality. Everything you reap today is the result of what you sowed in the past. Consciousness is not a vacuum, therefore it cannot remain empty. It is like a garden in which either flowers or weeds grow. Thought is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It has a creative ability and entails certain consequences. I will repeat Shakespeare's words once again. Things themselves are not good or bad, but only in our estimation. Your life is what your thoughts make it. The law of concentration. Another principle governing your life is called the law of concentration. It is of great importance in developing and maintaining self-confidence. The law of concentration, as mentioned above, provides that everything you think about intensely for a long time becomes a reality. Thinking hard about some subject, you are watering and fertilizing the sown field. Concentration of thoughts makes sprouts sprout faster. The more attention you devote to your goal, the faster your mental abilities will bring it to life. The law of concentration makes it possible to understand why persistent pursuit of a single goal leads to great achievements. The ability to concentrate on one subject is the main reason why even the most ordinary people sometimes achieve outstanding results. Peter Drucker once said that behind every great achievement, as a rule, there is a manic personality dedicated to a single mission. As a result of the action of this mental law, even a person with average abilities can direct all his forces to achieve one goal and sometimes surpasses much more gifted people, whose energy is dispersed between several goals, as a result, remaining unrealized. The law of substitution says that your consciousness at any given time is able to hold only one thought, positive or negative. Any thought that is currently in your mind is perceived by the subconscious mind as a guide to action. The subconscious mind, working in harmony with all mental laws, is busy around the clock trying to translate your dominant thoughts into reality. It has incredible power. All your emotions, beliefs, values, attitudes and feelings are stored here. This is a kind of database where everything you have thought and felt throughout your life flows. You need to constantly record into this mental computer any thoughts that reinforce your unshakable self-confidence. The law of emotions. The last mental law that you need to know about in order to develop inner strength, determination and self-confidence is called the law of emotions. According to him, any decision you make, any thought and any action is based on any emotion. There are two main emotions, fear and desire. They occupy extreme positions on the emotional scale. The more vivid the emotional coloring of the thought that you are thinking about in your mind, the faster it gets into the subconscious. It, in turn, activates all your mental forces and begins to put this idea into practice. The stronger the emotions, the more influence they have on your thoughts and actions, and the faster the reality around you changes. With sufficient emotional strength, these changes can occur instantly. The power of determination. I had a friend who smoked for 30 years. He constantly complained that he could not give up this habit since it was formed in adolescence. One day he felt pain in his chest and turned to a doctor who prescribed a comprehensive examination. After studying the results, the doctor told my friend that he had a serious heart disease. If he doesn't quit smoking, he will die in the next 6 months. Samuel Johnson once remarked that when a person knows that he will be hanged in the morning, he has an extraordinary clarity in his thoughts. The thought that my friend thought about caused a storm of emotions. He immediately took a cigarette pack out of his pocket, threw it in the trash and never touched a single cigarette again. If you put the same idea in a positive way, then the absolute conviction that you are going to achieve a great success and nothing in the world can prevent you from doing this gives you unprecedented strength. The main thing is to give yourself up to the task and not give up until you reach the goal. The depth of conviction and determination multiply your strength. If you really believe in your abilities, then no one and nothing will stop you. For conditions of self-confidence, you can gain such confidence by developing the following qualities in yourself. Clarity. Determine exactly what you want to achieve and what kind of person you want to become. Conviction. You must firmly believe that you are able to achieve everything you have planned. Determination. Promise yourself that you will do everything necessary and make any sacrifices to succeed. The sequence. Make a decision to work towards achieving your goal in the morning, afternoon and evening, every day, until you realize it. If clarity, conviction, determination and consistency are behind your plans and actions, you will have self-confidence that will ensure any desired result. The importance of setting goals. Why is it so important to define a goal correctly in order to develop self-confidence? Because the very fact of setting a goal activates the actions of mental laws. This is similar to starting a motor that drives your inner potential. Clarity of purpose saves you from the influence of random and unpredictable circumstances. You know exactly in which direction you need to act, and you do not doubt the result. The vision of the ultimate goal allows you to realize your strength, helps you to act purposefully and with concentration. It subordinates all the events taking place to a certain plan, which step by step brings you closer to the desired ideal. The ability to set goals and develop plans to achieve them is a necessary prerequisite for success, without which one can only dream of great achievements. The habit of setting goals and achieving them is much more important than any other skills and abilities. The main prerequisite for success. Over the years, I have witnessed thousands of cases confirming the amazing effectiveness of goal setting. I recently spoke to 600 people at the annual meeting of a national association in Phoenix, Arizona. During my speech, I repeatedly stressed the importance of defining goals and drawing up written plans for their implementation. The meeting took place on Sunday. 5 days later, on Thursday, one of the participants of the meeting called my office and asked for my fax number. He said he wanted to send me something urgently and couldn't wait for it to arrive by mail. The letter that came contained an amazing story. This person told me that he had already heard many times about how important it is to set goals correctly, so he was not too impressed with my performance. And yet, when he came home after the meeting, he decided to sit down and put in writing his goals for the coming year. The letter went on to say that on Sunday he had compiled a list of 10 goals, both personal and business, for the next 12 months. The most striking thing was that by 5 o'clock the next evening, on Monday, he managed to implement 5 of them. He could hardly believe it and immediately quickly wrote 5 more goals to complete the list to the original volume. On Thursday, when he called me, 5 more goals were implemented, already from the new list. Thus, having clear goals set out in writing allowed him to achieve more in a week than in the entire previous year. Amazing success stories. Another person, an immigrant from Pakistan, found himself without a roof over his head and without means of livelihood. But just at that moment, someone suggested that he listen to a CD with my performance on the topic of setting goals, and it completely changed his life. For years later, he was already the owner of 2 successful firms, and his fortune was more than $1 million. One woman found herself in a very difficult situation, as personal financial problems fell on her, and her health was shaken. Instead of falling into despair, she sat down and made a list of several goals, and also developed plans for their implementation. As a result, a year later, the woman divorced, ended an unsuccessful marriage, joined Alcoholics Anonymous, quit drinking, got rid of almost 20 extra pounds and brought her income level to more than $100,000 a year. She believes that she owes her success only to the goals and plans she wrote. I have an infinite number of other evidences of the effectiveness of written plans. I receive them every week during personal meetings and by email coming from all over the world. Before concluding this chapter, I want to introduce you to one simple goal-setting method that can change your life. Fear is holding you back. If you remember, I have already said that all your actions are guided by either fear or desire. Fear has always been and remains a person's worst enemy, as it destroys his self-confidence. It is the strongest among all the factors that keep you from moving forward. Fears of any kind affect us subconsciously and sabotage our best intentions and cherished dreams. Perhaps even now, while listening to these lines, you are experiencing some fears that do not allow you to fully realize yourself. No matter what you do, fear constantly strives to strike surreptitiously and prevent you from carrying out your plans. Sometimes you refuse to plan anything, saying to yourself, "I already know that I will not succeed." Subconsciously, fear whispers to you, if you do not set clear goals for yourself, you will fail. By doing so, you actually admit that you don't really believe in your abilities and that you can achieve more. Sometimes fear manifests itself in the desire to postpone the work of making plans for later. You convince yourself that you will do this on weekends, during vacations, in the summer, when you have free time, or sometime in the indefinite future. This means that you, like 97% of other people, will never get around to it. You can also try to find a reasonable explanation for your reluctance. If you take into account my current situation, it won't do any good anyway. Comfort zone. If the worst enemy of our self-confidence is fear, then the biggest obstacle to human achievement is the comfort zone. Psychologists have found that each of us has a natural tendency in work and in everyday life to limit ourselves to simple actions that do not require effort and do not cause internal discomfort. We stop striving for anything and relax. Day after day, we develop the habit of working at full strength, and this will never lead to success. We are content with only a small fraction of what we are actually capable of. We spend hours on social networks, watching TV, listening to music, chatting with friends, and eventually wasting a lot of time, and then trying to convince ourselves that we don't need more. Most people stay in their comfort zones. Such a comfort zone can be your habitual attitude to life, style of communication with others, reaction to events. The comfort zone may include both the amount of your earnings and the degree of diligence with which you treat work. The comfort zone is the lack of readiness for mental and physical exertion. Resistance to change. When a person gets into a comfort zone, he has a natural desire to resist any changes, even those that benefit him. If something forces you to leave your comfort zone, whether it is a breakup of a relationship with a loved one or the loss of a job, then the first thing you want to do is to regain mental comfort by finding yourself a new person of the same type or a similar job. Everyone knows the case when a person quits an unloved job only to get the same job as a result. Or take another situation. A woman, having made sure that she has contacted a man who does not suit her at all, finds solace in the fact that she meets another gentleman who is no different from the previous one. Or, let's say we are not satisfied with the salary, but instead of making an effort to increase it, we adapt our lifestyle to the current meager financial circumstances. The whole tragedy of the comfort zone lies in the fact that it is comfortable only at first, and then gradually gives way to complacency. The lack of striving for more leads to boredom, and a person begins to ask himself the question, is this really all I can count on? Then life turns from an exciting adventure into a tedious repetition of yesterday. Then boredom gives way to frustration and irritation. After all, deep down, every person realizes that from birth he has amazing abilities. He knows he's capable of more. Psychologist Carl Rogers said, "Every living organism is characterized by the desire for the full realization of its innate capabilities." This feeling gnaws at a person and tells him that he could be a more significant person, do and have more than now. Such a desire is peculiar to you. Revealing the greatness of your personality. We call great people who are absolutely convinced that they were born in order to accomplish something outstanding in life. They do not live for today, but for a vision of a better future. The greatness of their personalities lies in the fact that they know about their destiny and are convinced that the only limitation for a person is the power of his imagination. William James said, "Compared to what we could have become, we are still in a state of half-sleep. We use only a small part of our physical and mental resources." If you look at the matter more broadly, a person falls far short of his true capabilities. It is characterized by a wide variety of forces, which, as a rule, are not used. The founder of the magazine With Access Horizon, Seth Martin, once said, "If you are able to discover and use the forces that lurk inside you, you could become the person you imagine only in your wildest dreams." Having studied leaders in various fields of human activity for 5 years, Warren Bennis found that they all consciously avoid comfort zones and constantly set higher goals for themselves. They are never satisfied with what they have achieved, but live a full life, striving every time to achieve more than before. To gain unshakable confidence, you need to think of yourself as a leader and act accordingly to these ideas. You must strive to the limits of your potential and make plans that force you to act at the limit of what is possible, unable to reveal your greatest strengths. You should aim for goals that match the maximum of your abilities. And it all starts with a piece of paper, a pen, and yourself. Imagine that all restrictions are lifted. The initial stage of goal setting is to throw away all mental limitations and allow consciousness to float freely in the universe of possibilities. The first step is to give free rein to your dreams and determine what you want in each of the spheres of life. At the same time, first you need to take into account your desires and only then the possibilities. Imagine that you can become anyone and have almost everything you want, but at the same time you need to be clearly aware of what exactly you want. First, state your dreams in the form of a list. At this stage, you do not need to set any restriction, connections, experience, and education. Imagine that all the items from this list are within the limits of what is possible. Remember, everything that you are able to clearly define and put on paper can be implemented in the future if you have enough patience, diligence, and willingness to make some sacrifices if necessary. Dreams are not unreal. Only the deadlines that you set for their implementation may be unrealistic. The very process of setting goals and writing activates the actions of mental laws and thus makes the whole universe work for you. Many people make wish lists during the New Year holidays, and then forget about them until the next New Year. And that's when they are surprised to discover that 80% of these wishes have somehow miraculously come to life. The very fact of stating large and complex goals and writing contributes to their implementation. Firstly, it immediately increases your self-esteem and confidence. After all, in order to honestly admit to yourself what you really go for, it takes a certain courage. This action alone gives you strength, awakens your dormant abilities. Secondly, you activate your mental and emotional forces. Setting goals generates a powerful release of physical and mental energy. The arousal associated with this process leads to an increase in pulse and respiration. It is often possible to hear feelings that you can't so to the case, state everything in writing. For all the cynicism of this statement, it contains a great deal of truth. A written statement of your thoughts is equivalent to pressing the gas pedal in a car. It boosts your mental and physical potential. And if you do this all the time, the results will be simply amazing. Thirdly, the goals set out on paper place a lot of responsibility on you. This greatly increases the likelihood that they will be implemented. Your consciousness is arranged in such a way that by writing down your goals on paper, not on a computer monitor, you are simultaneously thinking of ways to achieve them. The only question is how much you want it. There are several mental exercises that can be used in the process of setting goals. Imagine if you just won $1 million in cash, where you can do whatever you want with it. Where will you start? Where would you like to go? What changes do you want to make in your life? What would you do if you had complete financial freedom? Describe the ideal lifestyle that you would like to lead. Now imagine that you have already achieved this. Where would you like to live? Which company would you like to work for, or which company would you like to own? What kind of house and cars do you need? What will you spend your free time on? Who do you want to communicate with? Think about what you would do if you found out that you have only 6 months left to live. How would you like to spend the last 6 months of your life if you didn't experience any restrictions? Who would you like to spend this time with? All this is tantamount to the question, what is the most important thing in life for me? What cases would you like to complete and which ones would you refuse? In other words, what are your highest values? What is the most important thing for you in this life? Make a list of all your worries and problems. Indicate in front of each of them the goal that represents the ideal solution. If, for example, you are concerned about money issues, write down exactly how much you would like to earn in the next 3 to 5 years and how much of this amount you will be able to save. Think about your family and the people you are in close contact with. Describe what an ideal relationship with those close to you should look like, and then make a list of goals that will help you achieve this. Think about how you feel. Write down what perfect health means to you, and then make a list of measures that need to be taken to reach this level. Describe who you would like to be like in personal and professional terms, and then make a personal and professional development plan that will allow you to become such a person. Remember Goethe's words, before you have something, you have to be someone. Classify your goals by making a list of goals, divide them into groups corresponding to different areas of your life. There are usually 6 of them, but you may have more or less. So, financial and material goals, family and personal goals, development and education goals, spiritual goals, health goals, social goals. For life to be complete, it must be balanced. So, for effective development, you need to have goals in each of these areas. Assign goals by importance. After you have stated all the goals in writing, you need to determine their priorities. Select the goals that mean more to you than all the others and place them at the head of the corresponding lists. This is a necessary prerequisite for success. Mental discipline, which allows you to classify and distribute goals by importance, is the starting point of individual development. As the main one, it is necessary to highlight the goal, the implementation of which will help to realize many other goals. All your actions should be focused on achieving it. It sets all your mental muscles in motion and allows you to focus their strength at one point. Your progress in achieving this goal largely determines the formation of self-confidence that you strive for. Focus and concentration of efforts. It is not easy to achieve complete focus on one goal, but it is very important. Orison Swett Marden wrote, "The real giants of humanity have always been people who knew how to concentrate. Their actions resemble continuous hammer blows at one point until the goal is achieved." Nowadays, we also belong to the most successful people and also include those who are completely possessed by one idea, one goal and one purpose in life. Marden also said that every great man became such due to the fact that he directed all his efforts in one chosen direction. Full concentration on making your dream come true strengthens the desire for it and reinforces it with powerful emotions. Intense concentration activates the law of attraction and begins to attract people and events to you that help you achieve your goals. The more you think about your goal, the more it subordinates your whole life and the faster it becomes a reality. Goal measurability and timing. Your main goal should be measurable. There is an unshakable rule here: only what can be measured will be fulfilled. The degree of approximation to the goal should be expressed in specific quantitative units. If necessary, a large goal can be divided into smaller ones, which are implemented sequentially, one after the other. In addition, your goal should have a clear time frame. Set and fix in writing the deadline for its implementation. It should be real and require some effort. If the goal is long-term, for example, designed for 2 to 3 years, divide it into smaller stages, amounting to 1 to 2 months each. Create a reward system for yourself when you reach each intermediate stage and implement the entire plan as a whole. For maximum motivation, it is necessary to clearly link each stage to a specific reward, depending on its significance. Such incentives can, for example, be dinner at a restaurant, buying a new car or house. They can concern both you personally and all family members. After all, in the course of realizing a dream, many rely on the support and cooperation of spouses and children, so they also need to be rewarded for their successes. The reward system stimulates activity, allowing you to make work more joyful and interesting. It serves as a powerful internal motive when there are some obstacles on the way. Having decided on the main and secondary goals, it is necessary to draw up detailed action plans that need to be taken to implement them. All actions should be arranged in order of priority with specific deadlines. What needs to be done first, and what in the second and third? What is of paramount importance? Each item of the plan should also be measurable and have clear deadlines. Having outlined the necessary actions, immediately proceed to their implementation. Setting goals, drawing up plans and their practical implementation automatically include you among the 3% of the most effective people working, and your success can be considered practically guaranteed. The last thing I would like to say about setting goals: don't share them with others. By keeping your plans to yourself, you become stronger and develop self-confidence. In this case, your actions are always purposeful, and every hour and day brings you closer to the realization of the goal. Many people make a serious mistake by openly telling others about their goals. Talking about this topic dissipates your energy, reduces motivation, and weakens your resolve. You spend your energy discussing goals instead of focusing on useful actions. A simple method. Let me share with you one method that changed my life and the lives of many people who used it. It is very simple. Buy yourself a regular notebook for writing or a common school notebook. Your every day should start with the fact that you will write down your main goals in the present tense in a notebook, as if they have already been implemented. Use clear and unambiguous expressions. I earn money. I'm trying. I do. If you want, you can write in a notebook about something else. But most importantly, take 5 minutes a day to restate your main goals without looking at yesterday's notes. A handwritten letter is a so-called psychoneuromotor activity. Time after time, by setting out your goals and writing, you are rooting them deeper into the subconscious. Due to this, the desire to achieve them increases, your determination and conviction grow. You activate the mental laws of concentration, attraction and correspondence, focus your mental powers and increase confidence that these goals are achievable. If you restate your goals every day, they become clearer, stronger, and begin to live their own lives. This method allows you to capture goals and plans so deeply in the subconscious mind that it already keeps them in sight without your conscious participation and strives to make them a reality. In this case, your future can be considered guaranteed. By developing the ability to set goals and achieve them, you simultaneously strengthen your self-confidence. This confidence comes not so much from positive thinking as from positive experience. No one will be able to prevent you from achieving your goals. Practical exercises. Decide today what you want in life. Formulate your goals in such a way as if there are no restrictions for you and you are sure of ultimate success. Make a list of 10 goals that you would like to achieve over the next 12 months. State your goals in the first person in the present tense and the indicative mood. For example, at the time of reaching the goal, I earned so many dollars. Set deadlines for the main goal, as well as intermediate stages, if necessary. Make a list of all the measures that need to be taken to achieve the goal. Set their order and priority. This will be your plan of action. Analyze your notes and ask yourself the question: if I had the opportunity to realize any of these goals within the next 24 hours, which of them would have the biggest impact on my future life? Make this goal a priority. Write it down under the first number on a blank page in the first person, in the present tense and indicative mood. Below, describe all the actions that need to be performed for its implementation, distribute them in turn and significance, and immediately proceed to the implementation of the planned activities. Do something every day to make your main goal a reality. Do not stop making efforts until you succeed, no matter how difficult it is for you and no matter how long it takes. The process of setting and achieving goals will bring your self-confidence to such a level that you will be able to overcome all obstacles in your path.
Dear listeners, write down what other books you would like to listen to in audio format. Thank you for your likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We wish you all the best.